Welcome everyone to After the Dragon. I am your host JD alongside Mizpah, who will be my co-host for these episodes, and this is going to follow every episode of House of the Dragon. We did miss this one. I was sick this weekend, so this one was a little bit late, but we will be doing them after every episode, and we're going to talk about very specific points in those episodes. We are not just going to regurgitate stuff from the episode. So I hope you enjoy it. Please share it out. Leave us a comment if you agree with what we're talking about. Leave us a comment if you have a favorite character yet.
Even if you disagree with us, leave a comment.
Yeah, always leave a comment. And of course, this is brought to you by Mayhem Media. Check out that show and our sister show, the Boiling Point Podcast. And of course, check out our storefronts, bonfire.com/store/JDEDESIGNz. That's with a Z at the end of it, all lowercase. And bonfire.com/store/the Boiling Point Podcast, again, all lowercase. Mizpah, you weren't able to make it last week, so I shot it was a little 6-minute episode just touched on a few points. So how are you liking the series so far?
So far, I think it's got a lot of potential. Do I think it's going to be as good as the first Game of Thrones? No. But I do think it's going to be a very close second.
I think it will be, because I think we're going to get to see we're likely going to see dragons fighting each other, or at least dragons fighting other armies. I mean, there's going to be a lot more dragons in this one. I think it'll be good. Is the story going to be as good? I'm not so sure yet. The first episode certainly started out with some fireworks, some action. And then episode 2 kind of slowed down a little bit, getting us into the story and starting to develop some storylines and showing us where certain characters are at in terms of what they're thinking and their political allegiances. Like the Valerian family, Lord Corlys Valerian family. He's the master of ships. He sits on the council. He's the guy with the white dreads. He offered the king his daughter to unite their houses, since the king's wife died during childbirth. Spoiler alert, I should have said that at the top of the episode. Spoiler alert, you shouldn't watch any of these if you haven't seen the episode.
Well, it is called After the Dragon, so...
That's true, but still. But yeah, he rejected Lord Corlys Valerian's marriage proposal to his daughter, and he chose Alicent Hightower, which I found very interesting, the king.
Yeah, I was a little shocked by that, but I mean, not so much because they telegraphed that.
A little bit. She's been spending time with the king and stuff like that, but
now it makes you start to ask the question as to why did the right hand of the king want to set that up?
Oh yeah, I have no doubt that the Hightowers are going to be. I don't want to make comparisons, but I think the Hightowers don't necessarily aren't allied with the Targaryens the way that the king might think he is. I don't think I think Sir Otto Hightower, Hand of the King, is looking out for himself and his family, not the king.
It certainly looked that way.
Yeah. How about the princess who is now the heir, Rhaenyra? I'm sorry, I'm trying to get these names. I'm trying to listen to them in the shows, but they say them so fast sometimes it's hard to pick them up. I had problems with saying the Lannister name for like 3 seasons in the first Game of Thrones. Rhaenyra Targaryen, the heir. She went with the contingent. She ended up flying in on her dragon to get the egg back in episode 2. I thought that was very telling. I thought that Prince Daemon, who was ready to just start fighting these guys and start a war right then, but then Princess Rhaenyra comes in and he gives her the egg. It's very interesting, I think.
Well, and I feel like the Hand of the King wanted that battle.
I think you're right.
Wanted that to end in bloodshed, which is why he handled it the way he did. And then the the princess came in and completely destroyed that entire plan. I want to ask you a question about that.
Yeah.
Had the princess not talked to the queen who never was, and had the queen who never was, which I can't remember her name.
Let's hold on one second. Let me just get that for you. Yes, the queen that never was Rhaenys Targaryen. Rhaenys Targaryen. Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, dubbed the queen who never was. She was the one who lost out to King Viserys I, the current king who we have.
So had Rhaenys not have had that conversation with the princess.
Yeah, Rhaenys Targaryen.
Rhaenys Targaryen.
Yeah.
Okay. If they didn't have that conversation, would she have gone to the point and gotten that dragon egg?
Yeah, that's interesting. You think her talk maybe motivated her to take more of a role or to take more of a lead in things?
Or, for lack of a better explanation, lit a fire under her ass.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because she's going to be replaced by a male, but if she proves herself as a worthy heir, then maybe the king won't pass her over. Of course, now her and the king are going to be at odds because the king is marrying her best friend, Alicent Hightower. Also, and I want to talk about this because it's happening a little quickly, although it didn't happen yet, but Rhaenys Targaryen, the queen who never was, is married to Corlys Velaryon, and they wanted the king to marry their daughters, and Princess Rhaenys and the current king, King Viserys I, are cousins, making the princess's children, the one that they wanted the king to marry, second cousins, the 14-year-old, or the, I'm not sure how old she is, actually, 11 or 10?
Old.
12?
Yeah, he says she's 12.
Okay, so she's 12, but they're cousins. They're technically also second cousins.
Okay.
Now, we knew from the Game of Thrones that the Targaryens wed Targaryens together all the time. That's why the events of the Mad King happened. That's what destroyed their gene pool. But I didn't think, I knew that was going to be somewhere in this series. I just didn't expect it to be right at the top like it was, even though he did reject it now.
And you have to remember, in history, back at that time, it was common to try to keep the bloodlines pure. So there was a lot of inbreeding there.
You're talking about, are you talking about in our history or in the history of the Game of Thrones?
Well, both, honestly. Okay. So, when you're setting something in kind of like a medieval time, there's going to be some of that correlation there.
Well, I mean, George R. R. Martin obviously drew some inspirations from the world we live in, no doubt. So now let's talk about King Viserys for a second, since we were just mentioning him. He cut his finger in the first episode. We know he has a sore on his back that had to be cauterized. And he cut his finger at the end of the episode when he was yelling at his brother, Daemon Targaryen, that he was not going to be the heir. And in this episode, and we'll talk about the time jumps in just a moment also, in episode 2, it was 6 months later, and his finger is black. I mean, he's going to lose the finger, for sure.
Yeah, it is rotting and falling off.
Yeah, if he's not careful, he'll likely lose the hand.
And if not more.
Yeah. And that was... Go ahead.
I was going to say, if gangrene sets in, that could just be the end of him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... Now, the time jump was 6 months between episode 1 and episode 2. Huge time jump, and just from one episode to the next. That's huge. It's interesting how they're giving us how much time has passed between episodes. That was something that was almost never mentioned in Game of Thrones. We almost never get any kind of correlation of time or how much time has passed. even in the whole series, really, we don't know how much time has actually passed.
You know what? I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, and at least in this episode, they are giving us some kind of correlation of time, letting us know how much time is passing, which I do appreciate. But 6 months between episode 1 and episode 2, that's huge. That's a huge jump of time.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how long of a time span this season's gonna go.
Yeah, we're only in season 1 yet, and they went 6 months just from episode 1 and 2. Now, I'm sure it'll be, like most series, there'll be time jumps between episodes and between seasons, and then there'll be episodes that take place like right as soon as one left off. And even though we don't know how much time passes between episodes in the Game of Thrones, we have to assume that by the end of the series that many, many, many years have passed. So, I mean, they did do that in Game of Thrones. Even though we weren't aware of how much time had passed, I do believe that we were getting months in between episodes and stuff as well, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, there were times where they would allude to there being a great passing of time in Game of Thrones, but we never really were given kind of clear, decisive time span there.
No.
And varied. Like there could have been times where it was days, and then times where it was months, if not going on,
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, I mean, if memory serves, some of the only times we get time jumps in the Game of Thrones is we know Jaime Lannister is captured by Robb Stark for years. We know that he has him for years across a handful of episodes. That equals years.
Yeah.
And then we know that when Samwell let Bran across the wall, and then when Bran comes back, we find out that it had been years that Bran was beyond the wall. Those are about the only 2 times that we actually get any kind of sense of time in the Game of Thrones, if I'm not mistaken. There's always the mention of years. It's always been years ago. You know what I mean? Something from 2 or 3 seasons ago. Years ago. It was years ago. So it seems like it did happen in Game of Thrones. We were just less aware of it because they didn't really give us much in the passage of time.
It was a lot more subtly mentioned.
Yeah.
It was at all.
Yeah.
But,
now, also, anything else in this episode? I think that, I mean, like I said, episode 2 really started to slow down, settle down in between the.
So the Breeze is off screen, and she actually has a tidbit of information for us.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Well, welcome to the show, The Breeze. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Okay, so the one thing I'm reading here, it says for Game of Thrones House of the Dragon will feature multiple time jumps.
I didn't hear that. Multiple what?
Time jumps.
Multiple time jumps.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, yes, that's what we're talking about now. Well, then there you go. The Breeze confirmed it. So there it is, confirmed that there will be multiple time jumps throughout the series, and that does make sense. I mean, they do have to advance time. I mean, not everything can happen one day right after another in Game of Thrones. It is a medieval. Travel and stuff are done by ships with wind and horses on land. It's not like you get into a car and you drive 30 miles and it only takes you 45 minutes. So go ahead. You got something?
A spoiler that I was just given.
All right.
It says halfway through the season, the story is going to jump 10 years forward.
Oh, that's interesting. Halfway through the season or series, did you say?
Season.
Oh, so halfway through the season, they're going to jump 10 years. That's interesting. That would be interesting. I wonder how they're going to handle that.
That's a huge time jump.
Yes, it is. But I am glad that that is something that they're giving us. I'm glad that they're giving us how much time has passed.
Another thing I wanted to touch on is the girl that the king has announced he's going to marry, the something Hightower.
Alicent.
Alicent Hightower.
Yep.
I kind of started getting some Lord Baelish vibes off of her,
That's interesting.
where, like, it seems like she's, all about herself
See, is it?
and herself into a higher position, and, willing to play some sneaky, behind the back, deceitful, manipulative games to make that happen.
See, I get that a little bit from her father, Lord Hightower, Otto Hightower. I think he's the puppet master, but you think it's her? You think that despite the fact that he is leading her, you think she's in on it or playing her own game other than what her father's even planning?
Oh, I think she's playing her own game.
It's interesting. Okay, so you don't think she's even a pawn. You think she's just she's accepting this position, but meanwhile doing her own thing to put herself in a better place.
Yeah, I think she's letting her father think that he's giving her an idea of what to do.
That's interesting.
Ultimately, I think she has her own mission and her own desire and her own, thing.
Yeah, playing her own Game of Thrones. Yes. You just said the name of the show. Yeah, it was. That's very interesting. We'll have to look. We'll have to keep looking for that. We'll have to keep looking at that. I think it's more her father, but let's see. We'll have to wait and see on that.
Now, the Breeze, she gets more of a Marjorie Tyrell vibe.
Interesting.
So that's two very different characteristic point of views.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, it is. Both of you have seen that very differently, and that's interesting because either one could be true. We don't really know yet. We don't know very much about her at this point, except that her and the heir apparent, Rhaenyra. I'm sorry, I'm messing up these names. I'm going to get better. I promise, everybody. The heir apparent is going to, except for them two being friends, we don't really know much else about her, really. Now, since we were talking about the Hightowers, let's talk about them for just a second. Their place of power, or seat of power, if you will, are Old Town. That's where they're the rulers. They're the ones who made Old Town, thus the high Citadel Tower that's in the center. That is, of course, where the Citadel is located. According to my information, they hold fealty to House Tyrell of Highgarden, though, more than the Targaryens. So, yeah, that's very interesting.
That is.
And did you, something else I wanted to touch on, did you notice, it was very subtle in the first episode, but did you notice that they're not called wardens at this time? They're not the warden of the east, the warden of the north, the warden of the south, the warden of the west. They're called beacons. The beacon of the north.
Yeah. I think we had actually talked about that.
Off camera, yeah.
Yeah.
I found that very interesting that they're called beacons at this point and not wardens. I
kind of wonder why that changed.
Yeah, where, when, and who, how, all of that. Yeah, why did that change? It's very interesting. Anybody else? Anybody other characters you'd like to go over or points you'd like to hit on? There are other houses in the show. We're going to talk about them. They won't be, obviously we're following Targaryen, so it's going to be, Targaryen, the Valerians, the Hightowers. Those will be the prominent families that are featured on the show, but we'll likely see some Lannister. We'll likely see some Stark. We may even see some Baratheons. But I imagine they're going to be in a more supporting role. That won't be the main, it's going to be focused. It's mainly going to be focused on the Targaryens, and then by association, the Valerians and the Hightowers.
So I'd like to touch on the brother a little bit.
Daemon Targaryen.
Daemon Targaryen. He seems like he's very much the wild card, but I think the reason for that is I feel like he has a calling to be the king.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's very strong. He seems stronger than Viserys, but you know him being and in episode 2 he's taken over Dragonstone. I mean he's taken over Dragonstone with the gold cloaks that follow him. I mean that's a huge thing. And even now, even though they got the egg back, they still have that. They're still there. They still have just claimed that as their own. And the king's not doing anything about it. He's also not doing anything about the crabbers. So Viserys seems a little seems weak, and I'm not sure what's going to happen here, especially with or with the Valerians talking to Daemon Targaryen at the end of episode 2.
Yeah, so far it seems like the only two characters with cojones are Daemon Targaryen and the princess, which
Rhaenyra,
Rhaenyra.
yeah, and it's Daemon Targaryen.
We'll get there.
Yes, absolutely, we will. Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
But between they seem to be the only ones with cojones.
Yes, yes, they do. And now, go ahead.
I think hers might be bigger than his.
Yeah, maybe. And I want to point out that Matt Smith is the name of the guy who plays Daemon Targaryen, and he's been getting rave reviews from everybody. Everybody thinks that he is just owning this role, and he's going to be he's doing very well. You know what I mean? He's getting rave reviews as playing Daemon Targaryen.
Yeah, he really makes you believe his role.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and he's also really good at like he's doing very well. I don't know because I don't know about Daemon Targaryen yet. Is he a better ruler than Viserys? Does he want the throne because he's going to be cruel? He was obviously pretty cool with the gold cloaks. Is he going to be that kind of ruler? I don't know yet. I honestly don't know yet. Although, and in episode 2, he took a second wife. Now we know he took a second wife. His if you have kids, they should not be watching anymore. His whore as his second wife, so he'll have 2 wives now.
Well, she indicated that she was going to leave.
That's true. That is true. Well, we know from Game of Thrones and Tyrion that whores aren't always easy to control. Mysaria, I believe is her name. Prince Daemon's second wife, Mysaria, I believe is that character's name. We're really trying to get the character names right and learn them and stuff. So, what do you think? Go ahead.
I feel like that whole taking a second wife and her with child and taking the egg. I feel like that was all just a ploy and a scheme, because she seemed just as surprised by it as anyone else.
I also would like to point out that I think there's some kind of connection between the Princess Rhaenyra and Prince Daemon. They seem to have some kind of bond. We've only seen them talk to each other twice. Once when he gave her the necklace, which seemed a little more intimate than an uncle giving a niece a necklace. It struck me as a little bit more intimate than the normal uncle giving your niece a necklace. And then the conversation they had there on Dragonstone, there was something else there. They weren't just having a conversation with words. There was a whole other thing happening there, I think.
I would absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, so I think there's some kind of there's something there. I don't know what it is, but I don't know what it is. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something. They have some kind of a bond or some kind of an understanding in some way, whether it's unspoken or not. I don't know. Do you have, before we get ready to wrap it up, it's early yet, but I wanted to see if you or the Breeze has a favorite character.
Yeah,
Not yet?
Not yet, but honestly, I think that's because it's going to be hard for anybody to hit me the way that Tyrion did in the first Game of Thrones.
Yeah, yeah.
He's my favorite character from the first time I met his character. Like, as soon as I saw him, I was like, I like that character.
Yeah, I didn't choose him as my favorite character until episode 4, Crippled Bastards and Broken Things, which coincidentally, I too also have a soft spot in my heart for Crippled Bastards and Broken Things, and that's why I selected Tyrion as my favorite character in that game, in Game of Thrones, the first one. In this one also, I have not... Go ahead.
I liked him from the very beginning. The minute I saw he just didn't give a damn,
Yeah.
he became my favorite character.
See, he struck, and for the first 3 episodes, or when we see the little bit we see him in the first 3 episodes, he struck. I wasn't sure if I liked him or not. I needed to know that he cared about something. You know what I mean? Like, for me, that I need to know that a character cares about something at least. So when he said that, that's when I selected him, because I did like him beforehand. I'm like, you're cool, but I don't know about you yet. You know, are you going to be one of those grumpy motherfuckers that just hates everybody? Or is there going to be a purpose to you? And as soon as I found out that he actually cared about something, that's when I was like, yeah, you're my character for sure.
So for me, it was the fact I just immediately felt like he was trying too hard to not give a damn. That he did give a damn about something. And I picked up on that right away. And from that, like I said, the first episode with him, I was a Tyrion fan.
Yeah. Coincidentally, he also appears in more episodes than any other character in the Game of Thrones.
To the end.
Yes, and he did make it to the end. Yes, he did. And the only time I was disappointed with him was when he ratted out Virus.
Yeah, there was that.
But does the breeze?
Wow.
Go ahead, say it again.
Everybody makes a mistake once in a while.
Yeah, that's true. Does the Breeze have a favorite character, or also not yet?
New series.
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. I understand that. I also have not selected a favorite character either. Right now, none of them. I mean, I'm interested in where Daemon's story is going and the princess's story, and I'm also very interested in the queen that never was. But I definitely don't have one yet. I have not selected anybody yet. I'm not sure myself. But we got at least 8 more episodes coming.
Yeah, I would like to see more backstory on the Queen Who Never Was. But so far, nobody. I haven't really, gotten hooked on anybody's storyline yet. But we don't know anybody's real storyline yet either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't know what's going on. And that's what they did in episode 2. It slowed down in terms of action, but there was a lot of story building and a lot of things. There were a lot of things that happened in episode 2, just not exciting things like dragons flying around. And there was even a little bit of that, or battles. They're laying the story. They're building the story right now. Next week, we will have the episode on After the Dragon. It will be on after House of the Dragon. We will have it. We will be filming it around 9:20, 9:30, I believe. And then as soon as we're done filming it, I will get it posted immediately. And we're going to save House Valerion and their words and where their seat of power and information about them for the next episode. We talked about House Hightower in this episode. We'll save House Valerion for the next episode, and then we'll just keep going through some of the houses that we'll get in this season. Absolutely. Please leave us a comment. Do you have a favorite character yet? What do you think about what we talked about? Leave us comments. We want to talk about this. And of course, for this first season, while it won't be live, the goal is for season 2 of House of the Dragon, Mizpah and I would like to be shooting this live immediately after the episode of House of the Dragon in season 2. And that's what we're going to shoot for. And when season 2, House of the Dragon, we're going to try and do live episodes. We weren't prepared to do that at this point. That's why we're doing this the way we're doing it this year, and to build up steam. But the goal is by next season, season 2 of House of the Dragon, season 2 of After the Dragon will be a live show. So we'll be able to have fan interactions. Maybe we'll have some prize giveaways. Of course, that's next year, so that's way too early to be hyping that stuff.
It's never too early.
That's true too. Please share this episode out. That will really help us a lot. Mizpah, my executive producer, off camera, The Breeze. We thank her for her contributions as well, and hopefully she will be around on some of these episodes. I am your host, JD, and that's going to be the end.